This episode of the Jesse T Show is brought to you by 46 and 2 Wealth Partners. This year, many people have lots of money questions. Finding the right information can be tough, and more importantly, finding someone that you like and have confidence in is even tougher. If you'd like to keep more of your money, and more importantly, if you'd like to stop trading time for money and live the life you deserve, contact 46 and 2 Wealth Partners today. Right now, Jesse T Show listeners will receive a free 15-minute phone call that will leave you with at least one idea on how to keep or make more money. Text promo code Jesse T Show to phone number 202-301-4503. Crystal, Mark, welcome to the Jesse T Show.
Our great pleasure. Thank you for having us, Jess.
Right. So happy to be here with you.
Very cool. And the pleasure is definitely mine. You know, there's a lot of people in this world that, you know, I'm excited to have conversations with and people that are extremely impactful and have left an indelible mark in the world, pun intended with the name. So just in terms of both of you, for Crystal and for Mark, I wanted the handful of people that may have not heard the journey, the story, some of the insights, some of the successes, the things you've had to both overcome, wanted to share that with a few people in the world who haven't heard it. So if you could just take it away, give us some context on a little bit about both of your background and what brought you to today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, most people know me for the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, which we've been more than blessed. I mean, we sold 500 million books. When Dr. Canfield and I wrote it, we thought that the soul of America was in trouble, and that's why we call it Chicken Soup for the Soul, because every mother or grandmother fed you chicken soup when you're sick or at whatever. And it has just been a rocking bestseller. And now the book that we've done that's more important than that, as far as I'm concerned, because it's more timely, is Ask, the Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. And you don't get what you deserve in life. You get what you ask for. And we're teaching people how to go to the most important thing ever, which is their destiny. Because if you're alive, you have a destiny. It's great. And what we've discovered in just a few weeks that the book's been out is it, and now because it's holiday season, get 2 books and go over it with ever your spouse or your spouse equivalent or your best friend and go through every question in the book, and it'll get you out of this COVID lockdown mentality and have you realize who you can become and what your destiny is, all by the power of asking.
So much there. And then I want to touch on all of it. I want to touch on, you know, COVID and things that y'all have experienced and things you're doing to have the right mindset to you know, come out better through this whole, you know, world situation that we're dealing with. But I know you're both incredibly excited about the book. I know you're really, you know, excited to just spread that message and help people learn how to ask and learn how to step into their destiny. And so let's talk about that first. Let's talk about the book and the inception, the muse, you know, the writing process for the book. I'm sure you probably have it maybe nailed down coming from Chicken Soup for the Soul, but just talk about that. And then also a little bit about just kind of some of the inner workings of it and some of the insights that people can expect to find in the book.
Right. So, Jesse, I'm a transformational life coach, clinical hypnotherapist. So I've had the honor of just working with so many people throughout the years and discovering, you know, the best version, helping people discover the best version of themselves, essentially. And what I know about people is that anything and everything can be changed because, you know, I've had clients who have gone from, you know, crushing depression their whole lives to being completely free in 5 or 6 sessions, or extreme anxiety, or, you know, when people have lost everything, been able to start over, whether it's from a loss of a business, a loss of a marriage, whatever it is. So what I discovered throughout all of that experience, and Mark has discovered throughout his life, is that, you know, when we're going through those difficult times, the most important factor is to ask the right questions to move forward. And when we decided to write the book, started thinking about the idea of writing this, because we realized the power and the importance of asking questions and how much it's transformed our lives again and again and again. We decided that it was something we had to share. So we started really studying the people around us, because we're so blessed to meet so many amazing people around the world. Literally, we teach and train everywhere. And what we noticed is that people really are born with 4 times more talent and ability than they'll ever use in this lifetime. But there seemed to be a difference between people who were super achievers and those who were falling short. And it wasn't their natural abilities, their personality, you know, their potential. So we're like, what is it? What is that thing? And what it comes down to is your ability to ask for what you want, your ability to ask fearlessly, your ability to formulate the right questions at the right time in the right way to transcend these difficult situations that come at us in life. Okay, because life is always going to come at us in that way. And so we realized that that one thing, asking, was probably the most powerful tool you can learn to use in your life again and again and again. And we determined that there are actually 3 channels through which you need to learn to ask. And those are ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And each one seems to be equally important in studying sort of masterful askers and how they prevail again and again and again in their lives.
So I've been doing a lot of work over the last couple of years in different spaces, and all ties back to spirituality and God and my path there. And there's a lot of intention setting that I've been doing, and just really focusing on those types of things when you're asking of yourself or others or God, whatever you believe in, how to, accomplish something or how to look at something differently or how to show up in the world a little bit differently, depending on what those things and goals are. So where was it that this ask idea, was this something that through your careers, you've noticed yourselves, like when you've asked the right way in the right situations, things have come about, or when you didn't ask, maybe they didn't happen? Where did you find this information, and how did you validate it?
Well, great question, Jesse. And so what happens is that you either ask the right way to go upward, onward, goodward, and Godward toward your destiny, because we're saying ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And I learned it when I went bankrupt. I'd been a good student of a guy named Buckminster Fuller, and I was in New York building geodesic domes and Wall Street Racquet Club, botanical gardens, aviaries, out of plastic at the wrong time. 74, the oil embargo hit. And I said, oh my God, what if I go bankrupt? And sure enough, I check a book at the library, How to Go Bankrupt by Yourself. So if you ask the wrong question, you go the wrong direction.
Right. Yeah.
For 6 months, I'm sleeping in front of another guy's room in a sleeping bag, because that's how bad it was and how poor I was. And I was living in Hicksville, Long Island, New York, literally. And it was Hicksville. But I finally asked God, what am I supposed to do? And the intuition was that I was supposed to talk. So I go to my roommates and I say, 3 guys, and I said, you have breakfast. Do you know anyone young, not a lawyer, not a doctor, not a celebrity, not a Broadway star that's speaking and making money? And the guy said, yeah, the kid's a few years older than you. He's out teaching real estate this afternoon. Here's my chicken. Go see him. And I went and saw this guy, Chip Collins, mesmerizing the audience for 3 hours. Afterwards, I asked him, I went up and I said, hey, Chip, I want to buy your lunch and ask you how I can do this. He said, chance you making a kid is 1 in 1,000. You ain't going to make it. I'm just telling you in advance, but I'll let you buy me lunch. So and we became best friends ultimately, but he told me what to do if I'd stay out of real estate and just do life insurance business. And I did, and it was really great. But everybody said, you got that story in a book. And so the first book I wrote was Stand Up, Speak Out, and Win. And I said to little groups of 6 people to 50 people, and I said, this isn't a New York Times bestseller. It's not a national bestseller, but it's my bestseller.
That's right.
I want to sign it to you and your kids and your dog. And, I sold 20,000 of them, and I tripled my income. Now, that fits a lot of people today who aren't asking, what is it that their destiny is? And my destiny was to be a speaker and a communicator and a businessman, right? But everybody's got to have their destiny, and it's got to be figured out. It's got to be in writing. And mine was to do that. And, so I went from 70 grand to over 200,000 because we sold 20,000 books at $10 each. 200,000. I thought, hey, I have arrived. And since then, I've written 312 books, or been part of at least 312 books, major books, and it's just been heaven. But everybody's got a destiny, and when you're on track and in alignment, back to your spiritual question, we wake up every morning and ask yourself, ask others, ask God. We pray and meditate together for an hour and sculpt our life the way we want to go, so we're in alignment with the infinite and God in us, and then decide what we're going to do to manifest that.
Being in accord with your higher self and with God and each other, right? I mean, you're a team, and you're more powerful together. And I think that when you both have that unity and that clarity and that purposefulness into chasing after the same things together, I mean, that's unstoppable. I mean, you have these 2 cosmic powers and this masculine, divine, masculine, feminine coming together, and it's incredible. So there's a lot that you mentioned there. And so for a lot of the listeners, we have entrepreneurs, we have, executives, we have people that are, looking to make the leap potentially from corporate to being independent, or they're in that transition. And I think that all of us here, I can speak for myself, and I know what you just mentioned. Obviously, I want to get to your story, Crystal, about becoming a transformational, leader and coach and mentor. But for you, Mark, you went broke, right? You went bankrupt, but you had this ability, it seems like, at least I'm just going to, kind of put myself out there with people, to be able to build relationships and to be able to kind of seek out what you were finding. And you went, it sounded like, were you in real estate for a while? But I also heard you say insurance. Insurance is not an easy business. I was an insurance agent for a while before I became a full-blown financial planner. And I'm glad I'm not in that world anymore, but I know what it takes. And so what was that experience like for you? And what were some of the takeaways or the building blocks, the cornerstones of foundation to be able to help you build you to where you are today that you learned from those other businesses that you were in?
3 questions in one that you just asked, and they're all great questions. I'll try not to miss any of them. But the first one is entrepreneur. I wrote 7 major money books, like 1 Minute Millionaire, Cracking the Millionaire Code. And what I say is that an entrepreneur finds a problem, fixes it, scales it. That means makes a whole heck of a lot of money, and then creates a vast profit for him or herself. And that's what everybody has to do right now. Because then the second question you ask is, well, I'm an employee. What do I do? Keep doing your day job until you do your part-time. And we're saying that what we taught, Bob Proctor and I trademarked the term MSI, multiple source of income. And then we redid it with Bob Allen when we wrote 1 Minute Millionaire, multiple streams of income.
Yep.
Anyone with one stream of income has a JOB. It means they're just over broke.
They'll work till they're dead.
Yeah. And so we're and longer, right? So, sorry, guys and ladies, but what we're saying is you have a real MBA, which is a millionaire's bank account. And so do I want everyone to learn to be an entrepreneur? The answer is yes. Do I want them to learn to do something correct? Yeah. And I never really I trained life insurance. And what Bob Proctor and I were doing is taking big companies like Prudential and increasing them by 10% and get paid very, very well. And then they bought all of our products. Like I thought they'd buy a $300 product for everyone in the room. And I thought, man, I am the smartest guy ever. And the company, if we'd taken a percentage of $1 billion and got 10%, that would have been $100 million. That was what we did. And we should have done it the right way. And as an entrepreneur now, I look back and I go, Bobby, we missed this one.
You can't get them all, but the ones you do get, you want to hit them out of the park. And so, I think it's important for people to understand that no matter where you are today, the journey, it's that overnight success that takes 20 years, right? You see the tip of the iceberg, but everything that comes beneath the iceberg, the hard work, the perseverance, the failure, we've all seen these pictures of everything that happens before then. And so did you have a coach, a mentor? It sounds like some of these great people that you were plugged into, were they your coaches and mentors? And obviously you became a coach and mentor. Like, who was guiding you through this path so that you could stay on track and become successful?
I'll just name 4. My parents did a superb job teaching work ethic. In graduate school, Bucky Fuller, Dr. Fuller, who had 15 doctorates at Harvard and multiple, he taught me how to think globally. Chip Collins taught me how at a ground level how to do the business. And then the guy who taught me how to sell product, just like he taught Zig Ziglar and a lot of us, and now it's a $30 billion, well, before COVID, it was a $30 billion business that's been crushed. But it was Cabot Robert, the guy who started National Speaker Association, of which I'm proud founder when, in 1974, when he said, by the way, you got to give me $500 to make this association go. $500 like me asking you for $50,000 today. It just isn't going to happen, but I figured out how to do it, and I'm glad I did.
Just ask, right? It kind of goes back to the just ask mentality. And so for Crystal, I want to double back to your journey and your path a little bit, because transformational, leader and coach and mentor, it's extremely powerful. It's a powerful tool and a powerful gift to be able to lead others and to have them transform. And it's probably some of your most fulfilling life's work, to see other people have those aha moments, or to see them switch and do something and become something that they want to become. Where did that all start for you?
It really started, Jesse, through my own journey through transformation, just through the mistakes I made, and just always being keenly aware of what was going on. I just think I always had this awareness of the process as I was going through crazy times. I just will talk about one time in particular. I was one of those kids that was, found high school to be very easy and got bored with it. So I accelerated my curriculum and graduated at age 16 and married my boyfriend, who was 5 years older. And not a great life plan, right? So 2.5 years later, I find myself in a new city, baby on my hip, divorced, no family and friends, and no idea how I was going to support myself. So I did the only thing I could think of, and that was to apply for food stamps. So I remembered standing there that day getting ready to turn over my food stamps for diapers and food. And I had this crazy epiphany that was so powerful to me. I'll never forget it. It was like suddenly a spotlight was shining on my head and this question dropped into my mind. It was like, the first question was, how did I get here? Followed by a second question that was, are you doing everything you can to get out of this? Or are you taking the easy way out? And the second my mind asked that question, I was like, whoa, my moment of truth, because I knew that I wasn't doing everything I could. I wasn't tapping into my best. I don't even know. I didn't even really identify particularly what that was, but I knew that it wasn't my best. So in that moment, like it's like time slowed down and I had this mental and emotional pivot. By the time I handed those over to her, I was saying in my own mind, I'll never forget it, this will not be my future. And I think I remember being so like feeling so much conviction about it that I think I looked kind of fierce. I probably had a fierce look on my face. This will not be my future. So I went home and I thought, you know what? I don't have any answers, but I have questions. So I just started asking a lot of questions and going, who would hire me? How can I make money tomorrow? What skills do I have? So then as I started asking those questions, I remembered hearing on the radio, temporary service agencies like Kelly Girls. So I called them and asked, how do I do this? How do I sign up? They gave me the instructions. I filled out the paperwork, put down all my experience. Like I had worked in high school at the coolest clothing store and I'd worked in my dad's legal office and stuff like that. So I put it all down, everything I could think of, started working at Taco Time when I was 14, all that stuff. Anyhow, so they started sending me jobs, surprisingly. And I you could say yes or no. And, I started doing things like filling in at attorneys' offices and working at conventions, doing sales or setting up booths at malls. And I just started learning so much about myself and about business. And I realized I really love business. I love people, love working with people. And I especially love sales. And at that point, I decided to put myself through real estate school and get a real estate license. So, in the meantime, a few people had approached me and said, you should do some modeling. So I thought, what do I have to lose? I went into our biggest agency in my city and asked them if they'd sign me. And luckily they did. And I ended up doing some television commercials that went national. So literally a year and a half, it was slightly more than a year and a half from the time that I was turning those food stamps over for my food and diapers. I was now working for the top home builder in our valley. I was a licensed realtor working for the top home builder. I became the number one realtor and I was getting Screen Actors Guild residuals every month. So I had these incredible benefits because they have the best benefits. I had like a great insurance for myself and my son. And I thought back on that so many times and thought, what happened in that moment that switched me? And I'm so thankful that I was able to ask myself that tough question. And even more importantly, to answer it courageously, because I think that's a lot of it. Like sometimes we need to kind of parent ourselves. We need to get tough with ourselves. We need to ask ourselves those tough questions that evoke a lot of emotion and a lot of passion. And then we need to have the courage to answer them honestly so that we can move from where we are to where we need to be. And I'm just so grateful for that experience.
It's an incredible journey. And there's this couple narratives that are started many years before you met each other. And it's it's that PhD mentality, the poor, hungry, determined, that scrappy dog mentality of, it's going to be success or nothing else. Like it has to happen. And coming from a poor kid from Boston that shouldn't even be alive, I mean, I love that mentality because it's what I had. It's all I had. All I had was I'm going to make this happen, and there's no other option. You put your back against the wall and you come out swinging, so to speak. But the other thing I want to talk about is the story of where y'all first connected, and was this love at first sight, and was this something where you knew right away, or is this like something that was building over the years and finally it made sense? Talk about your story coming together a little bit.
Okay, so this is just kind of a crazy story. So I had been recently divorced and I decided to write a book about the incredible success I was having with my clients because their stories were just amazing and I wanted to share it. to let people know what you can do, that anything can be changed in your life when you make that decision. So I'm writing this book, and my mom calls me one day. She goes, I just got an email, and there's this Author 101 event in LA. I was living in Scottsdale at the time. And she goes, there'll be publishers and publicists, and Mark Victor Hansen will be there. I was like, oh, whoa, Mom. Okay. She's like, you need to go. And I said, when is it? And she goes, it's the day after tomorrow. And I was like, oh, I'm sure they're sold out, and she's like, no, just, I'll watch the kids, call them. So I called the number. And honestly, in less than 5 minutes, the promoter, Rick Frischman, called me back personally. And he said, no, Crystal, we'd love to have you. We're not sold out. Come on over. And I thought, that's kind of odd that the promoter called me back himself, that it wasn't an assistant or somebody else. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to this thing. So I end up there a day and a half later. Mark's the keynote speaker. I ended up in the VIP room, and I'm over here in this corner talking to a speaking coach. I'm like, not drinking. I'm going to be totally sober. I'm going to talk about my business. It is all business for me. And he's over there, in the opposite corner, surrounded by this entourage of people like, Mark, look at my book. And suddenly this woman, ironically, there's a glass of red wine sitting on this table where I was standing, and she's talking with her hands. She's from South America. She was really, talking. She whacked this glass of wine on my white pants. And it was like the entire glass of red wine jumped on my white pants.
Wow.
And I kind of stepped back, and Mark must have been looking my way because suddenly I see him like break through his crowd, and he comes rushing over to me. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He grabbed my hand. He's like, I'm so sorry. I think I know where the club soda is. Let me see if I can help you. So he dragged me out of the room, and we found the club soda, and we started talking because there was like a kitchen next door. He'd done so many events in this hotel. And he's just like, tell me about yourself. And I explained my business, my coaching practice, and my book. And he said, there's something about you that I think you would really do something amazing with women. It's really powerful. And I'd love to hear more, but I'm starving. Have you had dinner? Of course, I hadn't had dinner. It was like 9:00. So he's like, would you like to go to a restaurant with me? Because I want to leave the property. Otherwise, I'll be surrounded by people all night. Just 5 minutes, Mark, So I go upstairs, and I go, okay, let me go change them out of these pants. I call my mom. I go run up to my room. I go, Mom, how are the kids? They're doing great. I was like, you're not going to believe this. I got to hurry because I'm going to dinner with Mark Victor Hansen. And she goes, I knew it.
Wow. A mother's intuition.
Story?
Yeah.
So Jesse, we go to the top restaurant in Hollywood. It's now 9:30 or so, and at night on a Saturday night, and there's 50 people in line, and a $100 bill won't get you in. So go, okay, well, we'll have a shot at this. We get to the maitre d', the gatekeeper, so to speak. He looks at her, and he sees the pulchritudinous just emanating out of every pore of her being and her countenance, and says, okay, I give up. Who is she? I remember we're teaching,
wow.
Ask. So I say, wait. You don't recognize her?
Totally horsing.
And now I'm horsing around. And the guy's mind goes on steroids through People magazine and Style Vogue, everything he could think of. No, okay, I give up. Who is she? Now remember, we're both Danish, so I'm joking around still. And I say, well, she's a queen of Denmark. He says, no, she's not. And then he goes, oh my God, she is. Who are you? Back to questions. I said, who travels with a queen?
Right.
He says, oh my gosh, you're the queen. Hold on, we got to take it before you. 50 people are there before us in line. And we just fell in love that night. And it just got better and better and better. And the point is, everyone has got to master asking. And that's what we're teaching. Get the book, go over it with somebody else, and then join our little club called askthebookclub.com. It's free. And we're going to help you become a master asker to fulfill your destiny, because everyone has one, and most people don't know what it is.
It's incredible work to be able to amazing life journey and story for both of you, but to be able to kind of come together in unison and be able to share in this. And so when you're both working on, your morning meditations and prayer, and you're working through, curating and crafting this life that you want to have and this impact that you want to leave on the world and legacy of, essentially, what does the asking look like? If you can share that, like, is there a mantra? Is there a step-by-step kind of deal? Is that in the book? And we can kind of let people buy the book, obviously, and check it out. Like, just talk about that a little bit.
Well, there are some, lots of questions in the book and lots of ways to use it. And so definitely get the book. And in the book, we talk about, asking in relationships, asking to build better relationships, asking in your career and business, very specific things. Asking in your health and wellness, and then, of course, asking in your life purpose. All of those are equally important, because if one is out of balance, you're just not going to be happy. And the point of life is being happy and balance. So we start every day in a very deliberate way, because if you don't take this time to deliberately create your life will be randomly created by outside events. And it will appear that you have no control over your life, because it's almost like life is just coming at you and you're just ducking and dodging and trying to keep the balls in the air. And that's really an illusion. When you start to decide to deliberately create your life, and you take charge, you understand that your life experience is created in here, in your mind and in your heart. So we take that time to do that every day deliberately, because if you aren't willing to do that, you're automatically saying, I'm accepting a very random, deliberate life that's just flying at me that I have no control over. So we take this time, we kind of get in it. We do some breathing and, sort of pick a couple of topics that we think are important, spiritual topics, things like whether it's gratitude or things like that we want to focus on, and start there. So we're relaxed, because we believe that, when your mind is relaxed, you actually are so much more creative and solutions come to you so much more easily than if you're in this stressed out frenzy all the time. So taking this time with yourself in a calm, relaxed state. And, so we focus on a couple of words or intentions. And then, we ask the questions, we always revector our lives again against our values. Like, are we on track? What is our most important thing today? Are we in alignment with the things we have chosen, and asking those questions again and again, just to check in with yourself. And then, when things come up that we haven't figured out, we start asking those questions. What would be the best way to handle this? Show us the best solution for this. So we put that in our prayer and meditation. And it's really magical, because when you just put those questions in motion with an open heart and mind, that's what the law of attraction is. When you're focused on, a certain set of things, and you keep that focus with deep intention and deep anticipation that all those answers are out there somewhere for you, but you need to be keenly aware of them. You might get your answers in all different forms. You start asking questions, and suddenly this person calls you who you haven't heard from in a long time, or you see something in a magazine that is exactly the information you were looking for. The universe is so magical, I really believe this next decade is going to come together with a new realization of how spirituality, quantum physics, and consciousness all converges into this one place.
The hair just stood up on my neck, because this is like all the stuff I'm into.
Really? Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, because if you
those of us who are aware are in the same place, and that's why you got this big audience, Jesse.
Yeah, it's so incredible, because, creation, whether nobody could truly define who God is or what God is, but just suspending all of your disbelief and saying, look at creation. There's just so much incredible beauty and wisdom and intelligence, and just embracing that and knowing that you're part of that creation. And so all of that is there for you. Infinite creation, infinite resources are there for you. And it's so interesting when you combine that with quantum physics, which, in a sentence, quantum physics is really about you get what you're looking for. In the material world, what shows up is what you're looking for. And so you say, that's why focus works. That's why focus works negatively and positively. If I'm focused on the wrong questions, oh my gosh, what if I get sick like Mark? What if I go bankrupt? Well, he did, So we talk about asking
in reality,
versus the right questions, and really revectoring that focus every day.
Words are spells. Words are powerful, and they start off, like you said, in your mind and your heart. But you really have to guard those places. You have to guard your thoughts, and you have to work on it too. It takes work to meditate. It takes work to be consistent with prayer, or whatever that looks like for you. I think that we talk about, you mentioned law of attraction, and the book The Secret's really famous on using powerful, positive, the right words to really call into reality. But also, I think what you touched on there is super interesting that I'm big into, because I'm into, like, spiritual biohacking, all this different stuff. But being in a meditative state, you're changing your brainwave state, and you're becoming more suggestible. And so back when, my grandmother, she's now since passed, but when she was in her 90s, she would say, turn on my program, because that's how it was called back then. It was, instead of a TV show or whatever, it was called a program. It was because literally you're being programmed. And so when you have advertisers come on and you have shows come on, and even if you're listening to the radio and it's at like 440 hertz, whatever it is, you become suggestible to whatever it is that's playing through that. So you really have to audit the things that you're taking in, but also use that to your advantage. And if you can dip down into a different brainwave state and you can really meditate and focus on the things you want to call into reality, I don't want to say it's as simple as that, but sometimes it really is as simple as that if you can get on that frequency.
At the highest level, the smartest guy ever, the guy from UK, the top physicist, what he said, the last thing he said before he just died a couple of weeks ago, was that all of life is a hologram, and it is. And so we're saying, hey, look, when you're meditating, and I just finished a whole book called Visualizing is Realizing. I'd had to send tapes on it, and what you see is what you get, and what we're not talking about with your physical 2020 here. We're talking about your inner 2020. What do you see? And what we, obviously I saw that we were going to sell $1.5 million in a year and a half with Chicken Soup, and then $5 million, and then $10 million, and $15 million a year, and all of which, remember, 144 publishers all said, get out of here. You guys are nuts. Yeah. If small books sold, we would sell small books. You and Jack don't know squat. And some of them were nice. Most of them were fairly nice. But the fact is, then they look back and said, oh, my God, we've lost tens of millions of dollars not banking, because the book sold $2 billion worth in licensing, $1 billion. So the people that don't believe in what we're saying, you're missing it. As an entrepreneur, and we own an energy company, and we just see, and suddenly it's taken us 12 years to get to where we want to go, because there is, segment intending is one thing with that invitation of meditation, but the second level is, there's a part of time. Physical time moves slow. Imaginal time is instantaneous, and that's why when she teaches quantum physics, in a connotative way, everyone gets it and they understand it and they go, holy cow, I'm controlling my reality. If you decide to control your thinking and control your feelings, you basically control your future. And we're living examples, but we want everyone, back to what I said, to discover their destiny and manifest their highest, best, most extraordinary, higher self-destiny, like you said a minute ago, Jesse.
Yeah, there's been multiple times in my life where I've thought about something and I'm in my mind, I already have this, or I've already experienced this, and then shortly thereafter, whatever the time frame is, it finally happens. And now I use the terminology with my clients and friends and people that I'm around. I'm like, it's already happened, but time hasn't caught up yet. Like it's just this weird interplay, and I'm really fascinated to learn more about quantum mechanics. And I've kind of gotten in a few different people to talk about this, but it's I think the world's in a really beautiful place in terms of this consciousness awakening, this spirituality awakening, this understanding, these tools that we have out there, from quantum mechanics to plant medicines to all these different things that can tap us into and give us a peel back of the curtain to kind of see what's in the other part of that reality. And so, you touched on Chicken Soup for the Soul, and I'd be remiss to not talk about that for a moment. Talk about that inception for where you found that the world needed healing, and that the United States needed chicken soup for the soul. And like a good grandmother, you came in with the soup and you're able to heal some people. Where did that come from? The muse of it, and what was the writing of the book process like? And then obviously where it took you to today.
Okay. Well, Jack and I were both talking to 6,000 people, and he was first on, and he had written a book. He's a Harvard guy, of course, third in his class and all that. And if I went to Harvard, he didn't tell anyone, right? I couldn't have gotten into Harvard, but most of my teachers were Harvard, actually, and partners. Anyhow, the point is, he'd written a book, 101 Ways to Build Self-Esteem in the Classroom, which is probably more needed now because kids aren't getting good at class. And I'd written a book called Dare to Win, and I'd written How to Achieve Total Prosperity. It sold in 360,000 copies from the platform because nobody had taken me as a publisher. At the end of the day, he comes up, introduces himself. We go to dinner. I teach him how to do short stories because he said, man, I never saw anyone do stories like you. Can you do that? And then we decided to do the chicken soup. And as I said, everyone turned us down. Our agent, that I didn't say, after 144 turn downs, our agent, whose name will go on mentioned, fired us. That cost him at least $15 million, I suspect. Anyhow, we decided to go to the ABA, American Booksellers, and we did backpacks with 3-ring binders. And we were there for 3 days meeting everybody. And I thought I died and gone to heaven because my parents were illiterate immigrants from Denmark. And while I love them and they were smart, they didn't get a chance at education because there's no ESL. English is a second language. Yeah. And I put them down and just saying they were exceedingly smart and wise. They just didn't have English mastered. Anyhow, and Dad was a little baker. So the point is it, I got into books and thought, I've died and gone to heaven. Sort of like Mark Twain says, if heaven is what I want it to be, it'll be paradise with an endless library.
There you go. Yeah, that makes sense for Mark Twain.
Yeah. So, we feel good about that. And so Jack and I started selling it. Mostly I'm the marketing sales outside guy, and we figured out how to do it. And the thing that you said way early that I wanted to hitchhike that fits here is we are consistent. The reason I've sold more books than anyone else alive, according to Guinness Book of Records, is that I'm consistent, insistent, and persistent. See, most publishers, and God bless publishers who are in trouble this week, right, for a lot of reasons, because bookstores can't pay their bills because they've been closed too long. Yep. And that breaks my heart. But the fact, because I love these people, they're really good to me. And same with libraries, can't do anything but have drive up, which is another terrible, tragic mistake. But the fact of the matter is that, we're consistent doing media, consistent doing seminars, because publishers say, well, you do 20 big city tour and you're done. Well, in this 9 months that we've had Chicken Soup out for this, 9 months that we've had Ask Out, we've been on over 100 podcasts literally around the world. We'll do 2 in the morning here, 1 in Canada, 1 in Israel, 1 in Vietnam with like 10 million people at the end of the day. And the sales are now world sales. That didn't happen when we did Chicken Soup because we were just doing America.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm asking kind of greedily because I'm wrapping up my first book, and it's tentatively called Happy Wealth, and it talks about my story and my journey of, poor kid, broken kid from Boston can do this, you can't too. Here's the 10 steps to become wealthy, essentially. And it talks about emotional, behavioral finance, talks about practical things that you can do. Plus it's inspirational. It's kind of like peppered in with all that. But, I wanted to know, from one of the best to ever do it in terms of putting out books, even because there's a lot of people that I know that are in that stage of, well, I want to write a book and, I don't know how to get it out there, but it just sounds like from what you just said, it's like everything else. You just have to put your face there. You go, talk about
by the way, it's interesting. Pre-COVID, nobody wanted books. Now that book sales are at an all-time high, we got hired. I'd written it before and it just edited it. You have a book in you. And what I say is every one of us needs to write our book because the best book hadn't been written it because you haven't written it. And it's for you, your family, your friends. And it's legacy. The most important legacy because our legacy, back to Genesis 1:28, you're created in the image and likeness. That means you're here for 2 reasons, create and contribute. But you've got to leave a contribution for future generations like they did for us. That's what I'm saying.
I love it. Yeah. I've learned that my podcast has become part of my legacy. And, I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old that, one day when I'm not here, they can, if they choose to, they can go back and kind of see some of the conversations their dad was having. And if they're into business, if they're into, health and wellness or spiritual growth, they'll be able to get some nuggets. I think that'll be pretty cool. But, just to go back to your book point and how to write a book and how to get it out there, I feel that everyone has a story. And that's part of why I do this podcast. Everyone has a journey and they have a mission they should share. And I think for the people that are listening or that will watch this as well, it's all about just getting out there. It's the Gary V model, the content. Like you have to put yourself on podcasts. You have to put yourself in front of people so they know who you are. And so that you have a chance to be able to share your message and leave people better than you found them.
Totally correct. We believe in absolutely that. Care for the sake of caring, love for the sake of loving, and share for the sake of sharing. And if you really are putting out good vibrations come back. And forgive me for being self-aggrandizing for just a second, or personally, corporately aggrandizing. But the podcasts we've done have been universally well received, and more people than ever say, "Boy, I read this book by you, or this book by Crystal, and it changed my life." Or I read Skinny Life by Crystal, and I lost 50 pounds, or whatever it is that they did. Or I got my health back. I was dying of diabetes, and because of your book, Crystal, we're now healthy again. So, and we're just so thankful to people like you, Jesse, that are doing a good job to help. Here's my biggest thing. My teacher, Bucky Fuller, said, go macro to micro, think universe. We got 8 billion people alive on the planet. 4 billion can't read. Every one of us that can read needs to teach somebody who can't read. Not all, and in America, we need it because 75% of the kids in California can't pass a literacy test, and that's just obscene, absurd. How's that?
It's a calling, it's a mission, and you're both have impacted many, there's the whole speaker's mindset. If you can get in a room of 100 people and change the life of one person, you've done your job. You know what I mean? Right. And it sounds like you've done that 10x, 100x, a million X over. So where does that leave you day to day? Is the mission and the grind and the hustle, so to speak, and the love and the passion, is it just getting these books into as many hands as possible? And then what else outside of the book promotion and book tour, if you would talk about that for a moment, what else keeps you all happy when you're not, hustling? What is it? Some of the things that you're into, some of the things that you're listening to and consuming that may be able to help other people by knowing?
Well, for sure. I mean, it's all about what makes us happy is having a positive impact. And so to do that, you have to put yourself out there. So it's really, for us about getting out there every day, getting this message out. I mean, this is a life changer. When you understand this, for $16, you can change your life. It's pretty profound. And so people who are suffering right now, especially, I mean, it's been really just so disturbing to us to see the sadness that's come and people just collapsing into fear and so many suicides right now. And it doesn't have to be this way. Life is not over. We will always reinvent and start over. Human beings are infinitely resilient, but we have to have some tools. And so we feel like this is like the greatest toolkit right now that we can put in people's hands. I mean, we don't have to work another day in our lives, but we get up every day and we're trying to get this message out, like get out there and do this for yourself, start asking the right questions. And then beyond that, we're just putting together some courses and products to really give a deeper level of support. We're super excited. Mark has an amazing a book course that we put together. So, it's a deep, like a webinar and some personal time with Mark and things like that. He has that on his website if anyone's interested. But and then I'm putting together another course. So we just always have that kind of stuff going, because it's what makes us happy.
May I add? So first of all, it's a joy of work. And in addition to this, you asked what addition. I believe every businessman, every speaker, every entrepreneur has to have more than one business. And one of the businesses we own is called naturalpowerconcepts.com. And it's in Hawaii. But I'd ask everyone to go watch our videos. And you'll see that we've got some really wonderful products coming out right now.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And we'll make sure that we have all that in the show notes and all the links and all the, ways to contact you and find you. One thing that I'm interested to find out before we jump off is, for those folks like yourselves that have been blessed to be able to have this hustle, this work ethic, this heart for people, to be able to show up in the world and change the world, it's probably led you to some amazing adventures through your life and some amazing things that you've both seen and experienced. So what's left? What's on the bucket list that you haven't done yet that you want to do?
Well, I'll go first, I guess. First of all, I'm 72 years young. Never besmirch yourself saying you're old. So I plan on living to be 127 with options for renewal. And because I teach in our book, Ask, Set Goals, we show all the stuff on the bucket list that we've done. And I've obviously climbed Kilimanjaro and Whitney here in America and Fuji and all that. But there's a ton of stuff that we've got. Like I've got over 7,200 goals that I have got one to do still. And, as this releases, we'll get to do them. And I did get to open the pyramids in Guatemala. And for 2 weeks, there's amazing stuff out there for everyone. And there's just so much, like Crystal was saying, the infinite beauty that exists, and inclusive of in the people, but the places to visit that we haven't visited, like Easter Island, or all kinds of stuff that we want to do. And go inside the pyramids with one of our friends who is a vocalist, amongst other things. And evidently, because everything's a vibration, talk about quantum physics, she said, when you sing in there, you literally see everything shapeshift, which is what, is pretty high esoteric stuff, but it is great.
I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think for me, Jesse, there's so many little things. I want to go to Iceland, a few places that we haven't gone. But I think one of my big goals, I would love to put together like the world's biggest guided visualization to help, all at the same time, like raise the vibration of the planet to this incredible place where everybody realizes at that one moment that, sort of the God inside of them. Because really, when we think of God, sometimes it's like this far away thing, so far away from us. And the only way we really experience God, the only way God exists is through us, inside of us. And even if you look at scripture, that's even what Jesus was trying to say, like the kingdom of heaven is in you. It's inside of you. And that's really one of the big things he came here to teach us. Like, God's not some faraway place. It's like inside of you. So I love that. And I think the more people realize it, the happier they'll be, because you have all of that. You have that creative, beautiful power inside of you all the time.
Yep. No, that's beautiful. That, you know, we're not gods, but God is in every one of us, and we do have divinity in all of us. And I go back to this because that's such a profound impact on my life. But I had a plant medicine ceremony with psilocybin not too long ago, and I experienced unity consciousness and also what would be considered God consciousness in the sense of just this immense love for myself and for the world, and for just this interconnectedness that we all have, and all the different life forms, even, you know, outside of humans. So it's out there. And I think that, you know, the things that are changing the world right now that are going to be brought to the forefront in different ways, transformational, you know, tools, they're there for us to use right now. It's a beautiful time.
I agree. Super exciting.
Very cool. Well, thank you both so much. You know, massive love to both of you. And it's been really great to connect and hear about the journey and the mission, and anything I can do to support in the future, I absolutely will. But to Crystal, to Mark, you've been amazing. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch us on next week's episode of The Jesse T Show.